My wife. 6:47 a.m. Text plans changed. You're not coming to Europe. The kids want their real father instead. By that afternoon, I'd canceled everything and disappeared. All right, Reddit. This happened 4 months ago, and I'm still processing it. My wife sent me a text that basically ended 8 years of my life in one sentence. Here's how I handled it. I'm 34, work in industrial ceramics at a production facility in Ohio. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills. The work itself is straightforward. Manufacturing ceramic tiles for commercial construction projects. I run quality control on one of the production lines, making sure everything meets specs before it ships out. Been at the same place for 8 years. Because consistency matters when you're the only one keeping a household afloat. I met my wife Emily when her kids were young. Mason was 16. Grace was 14. Their biological father Justin had bailed years before I showed up. Just vanished one day when Mason was 6 and Grace was 4. Leaving Emily to figure everything out alone. No child support, no clears throat visits, no birthday cards. Guy was a ghost. We met at a community center cookout. Emily was there with her kids, looking exhausted in that specific way single parents do. I was there because my buddy worked maintenance and dragged me along. We started talking by the grill, basic small talk that turned into an actual conversation. She had this way of being direct that I appreciated. No games, no pretense. Emily and I got serious pretty fast. She needed stability. I provided it. Looking back, maybe that should have been a warning sign, but at the time it felt good to be needed to be the reliable one. The guy who showed up and followed through. We moved in together after a year. I signed the lease because her credit was damaged from the years Justin left her holding the bag on their joint debts. Made sense at the time. We got legally married 2 years after that quiet courthouse thing with just her kids and my parents present. I never formally adopted Mason and Grace, but I treated them like they were mine. Paid for everything. School supplies, new phones, car insurance when Mason started driving. Grace's art class fees, dad stuff. The stuff Justin should have been doing but wasn't. The thing about being a stepdad is you're always aware you're not the original. Nobody says it out loud, but you feel it. Every Father's Day card that doesn't quite commit. Every family photo where you showed up after the story already started. I never pushed it. Just kept showing up, kept paying, kept being present. Last fall, we started planning this big Europe trip. 2 weeks in France and Italy, museums, food, all that culture stuff Emily had always wanted to do. I wasn't exactly thrilled about flying overseas, but she was excited and the kids seemed interested, so I signed up for overtime shifts to make it happen. The flights alone were nearly $6,000. 3 tickets at $1,900 each, all on my credit card. I'd been saving for months, picking up extra weekend shifts, skipping lunches to bank the difference. We had a joint account set up specifically for the trip fund. Both of us contributing, except my contributions were about 4 times hers. Then Justin showed up at Mason's graduation last spring. Guy hadn't seen his kids in over a decade. No child support, no birthday cards, nothing. But he rolls up to the ceremony in a rented BMW. All smiles and back slaps like he'd been there the whole time. Mason ate it up. Grace, too. Suddenly, their deadbeat father was this mythical figure who'd found himself and wanted to reconnect. Emily called it closure. I called it exactly what it was, a guy showing up when the hard work was done, trying to collect credit he didn't earn. But I kept my mouth shut because that's what you do when you're the stepdad. You don't compete with biology. Justin started texting the kids regularly after that. Taking them out for dinners I wasn't invited to. Emily said it was good for them to have their father back in their lives. I said nothing and kept paying the bills. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. The Europe trip was set for the following Monday. Bags were packed, itinerary printed, everything ready. Emily and the kids had driven to her sister's place Sunday afternoon. Closer to the airport, easier logistics for the early morning international flight. I was planning to drive up Monday morning, meet them there, head to the airport together. Then my phone buzzed at 6:47 a.m. on Monday while I was tying my work boots. The text was from Emily. Not a call, a text. Plans changed. You're staying home. The kids want their biological father on the Europe trip. Justin is coming instead. I read it 3 times. Same words every time. No apology, no explanation, just the decision, handed down like I was an employee being reassigned to a different project. I set my phone on the counter and stared at the coffee maker. The red light blinked. My hands were steady, which surprised me. I'd expected anger, but what I felt was something colder. Clarity, maybe. I poured coffee into my thermos and sat down at the kitchen table. The same table where we'd planned this trip 6 months ago, where I'd circled dates on the calendar and calculated costs, where I'd signed up for those overtime shifts, flights I just paid for. Flights that apparently didn't include me anymore. The apartment was too quiet. I opened my phone and looked at our bank accounts. The joint checking showed the Europe fund nearly empty after the ticket purchases. My personal savings sat untouched. 5 years of emergency money I'd been building, never touched by anyone but me. I opened my email and pulled up the flight confirmations. All 3 tickets purchased on my credit card. My name on the billing. Emily's name on the passenger list. Mason's name. Grace's name. And now Justin Hayes. I'd never met Justin. He'd been gone before I entered the picture. Reappeared at graduation. And apparently decided a free trip to Europe sounded better than actually being a parent. My wife had called it closure. I was starting to see it differently. I stood up and walked to the window. The parking lot below was filling up with people heading to work. Normal Tuesday morning. Everyone had somewhere to be. I had a shift starting in 40 minutes. Industrial tile production, steady pay, nothing glamorous. I'd taken that job 8 years ago when we needed reliable income. When her kids needed school supplies and winter coats and someone to fix the car when it broke down. I pulled out my laptop and opened my bookmarks. I'd always been organized about finances. My father taught me to keep records. Every payment, every receipt, every auto draft. I had a folder labeled household expenses. I opened it. 8 years of documentation stared back at me. Rent payments, all from my account. Utility bills, my name, my payments, car insurance for her vehicle, my card, the kids' phone plans, my account, streaming services, subscription boxes, gym memberships I didn't even use. Everything pointing back to the same source. I made a list, not because I was angry, but because I needed to see it written down, needed to confirm what I already knew. By the time I finished, I'd counted 42 recurring monthly expenses that I covered alone. 42. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Emily. Don't be upset. Justin wants to bond with his kids. You understand, right? I typed out 5 different responses. Deleted all of them. Finally, I just wrote back. Have a good trip. I didn't add anything else. No questions, no arguments, just 4 words and a period. Then I called my supervisor and told him I needed the day off. Family emergency. He didn't ask questions. I sat back down at the kitchen table with my laptop, my phone, and every document I'd saved over the years. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to do what I should have done the first time I felt like a wallet with legs. I was going to handle this the way you handle anything built on the wrong foundation. Carefully, methodically, and completely. The coffee in my thermos had gone cold by the time I finished making the first 3 calls. I didn't notice. I had 12 more to make before lunch. The first call was to the credit card company. I explained that I needed to remove an authorized user from my account. The representative asked if there was a problem. No problem, I said. Just simplifying things. She was off the account in 4 minutes. I thanked them and hung up. The second call went to streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Spotify Premium Family Plan. I canceled each one while standing at the kitchen window watching cars pull out of the parking lot. The customer service scripts were all the same. Can we ask why you're canceling today? Just cutting back, I said each time. Call number 5. The phone plan. 3 lines under my name. Mine. Emily's. Grace's. The representative explained that I could suspend the other 2 lines instead of canceling if I wanted. No, I said cancel them. Just to confirm, sir, this will disconnect service immediately. That's correct. There was a pause on her end, probably wondering what kind of situation ends with someone cutting off family phone lines without warning. I didn't offer an explanation. She processed the request. I thought about all the times I'd upgraded their phones. Mason wanting the newest model every year. Grace needing more data for her design apps. Never a thank you, just the assumption that I'd handle it because that's what I did. I handled things. I opened my list again and kept going. Car insurance on her vehicle, the one I'd been paying for since the transmission went out 3 years ago. That had been a fun expense. $2,400 for a rebuild because Emily had ignored the check engine light for 6 months. I'd paid it without complaint because we needed the car. I called the agent directly. He knew me by name. Hey, I need to remove a vehicle from my policy. I said, sure, which one? The Mazda. There was a pause. That's your wife's car, right? You sure about this? Positive. All right, I'll process it today. She'll need to get her own coverage if she wants to keep driving it. I understand. He didn't push. We'd known each other since high school. He just said he'd email the confirmation and hung up. I looked at the list again. Next was the gym membership. $80 a month for a facility Emily used maybe twice a month. She'd wanted it for the classes, the sauna, the self-care, as she called it. I'd never set foot in the place. Cancelled. The meal kit subscription that delivered to our door every Thursday. $150 a week for ingredients and recipes. Emily would get excited about try once then forget about while the vegetables rotted in the crisper drawer. Another one of those things where she had ideas, but I handled the logistics and the bills. Cancelled Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max. The full streaming ecosystem that I'd been maintaining so everyone could watch their shows. I kept Netflix on my personal account. I actually used that one. The rest got the axe. I walked to the bedroom and opened the closet. My clothes took up maybe a third of the space. The rest was hers. Dresses she'd bought for dinners I paid for. Shoes that cost more than my work boots. A whole section just for purses that all looked identical to me but apparently served different purposes. I didn't touch any of it. I just stood there looking at how much room I'd given up without noticing. Physical space, mental space, financial space. I'd made myself smaller and smaller to accommodate everyone else's needs. The irony hit me then. I'd spent 8 years making space for a family that saw me as temporary, a placeholder until someone better came along. And the moment someone claiming to be better showed up, I got a text message at 6:47 a.m. Not even a phone call. My laptop was still open on the kitchen table when I got back. I pulled up the lease agreement for the apartment. My name, my signature. Hers was nowhere on it. I'd signed this lease 5 years ago when we moved in together. Back when she said her credit wasn't great and asked if I minded handling it alone. I'd minded. I'd just been too stupid to say it out loud. I called Clearview Property Management. The office manager, Karen, answered on the second ring. I need to discuss my lease, I said. Of course. What's going on? I'm planning to vacate early. What's the process? She pulled up my account. You're paid through the end of next month. If you give 30 days notice, we can start showing it. Are you relocating for work? Something like that. I'll email you the notice form. Once you sign, we'll list it immediately. Market's good right now. Shouldn't take long to fill. I thanked her and opened the email before we'd even hung up. Signed it digitally. Sent it back. My phone buzzed. A text from Mason. Dude, my phone just died. What happened? I typed back. Payment plan was under my account. You'll need to set up your own. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. Seriously. Seriously, I replied. Grace texted next. Same confusion, same question. I gave her the same answer. Then Emily called. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "What are you doing?" Her voice was tight, controlled, the tone she used when she was angry, but trying not to show it in public. "Adjusting expenses?" I said. "You canceled the kids' phones?" "I canceled the lines I was paying for. They're adults. They can handle their own bills." "This is ridiculous. We're about to leave the country. Then you should probably sort that out before your flight." Silence on her end. I could hear airport announcements in the background. Gate changes, boarding calls. "You're being childish," she finally said. "I'm being clear," I replied. "You wanted your actual family on this trip. I'm giving you exactly that." "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant." She started to say something else, but I hung up. My hands were shaking slightly. My voice hadn't raised once. I felt calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. I made 3 more calls that afternoon. The gym membership, the meal kit subscription, the car detailing service I'd been paying for monthly, even though I took the bus to work most days. By the time the sun started setting, I'd cut 42 monthly expenses down to 11. Only mine, only what I actually used. I ordered Chinese takeout from the place down the block and ate it at the kitchen table with my laptop open, going through documents. 8 years of being the foundation everyone stood on while pretending I was part of the structure. Not anymore. My phone stayed quiet the rest of the night. No more texts, no more calls. Good. I had work to do tomorrow. Bigger work. The kind that didn't undo with an apology or a promise to do better. The next morning, I called Brooks Legal Associates. The law firm had been recommended by a coworker whose brother went through a divorce 2 years back. I didn't need a divorce lawyer yet, but I needed to know where I stood. The receptionist transferred me to David Brooks. His voice was steady, no nonsense. "What can I do for you?" he asked. I explained the situation in under 3 minutes. The text, the trip, the apartment in my name, the bills I've been covering. "Are you married?" he asked. "Yes. 6 years legally. Common law before that. Kids. Hers. Both adults now." He was quiet for a moment. I heard papers shuffling. "The apartment's in your name only?" he asked. "Correct. Lease. All utilities. Then you're within your rights to vacate. If you're planning to separate, I'd recommend documentation. Every expense you covered, every payment. You'll want that if this goes to court." "Already have it," I said. "Good. Call me if she files anything. In the meantime, keep records of all communication." I thanked him and hung up. 20 minutes later, Karen from the property management called back. "I've got someone interested already," she said. "Young couple relocating for work. They want to see it this afternoon if possible." "I'll be here," I said. They showed up at 2. Clean cut, professional, the kind of people who pay rent on time. They walked through the apartment asking practical questions about heating costs and parking. They didn't ask why I was leaving. "We'll take it," the husband said before they left. "Can we move in on the 1st? "That works," Karen confirmed. I signed the paperwork that evening. Lease termination, deposit transfer, forwarding address left blank. The apartment felt different after that. Less like a home, more like a hotel room I'd overstayed in. I started packing that night. I didn't have much. Clothes, work gear, my laptop, some books. Most of the furniture had been here when we moved in, or she'd picked it out. The couch, the dining set, the decorative things that made the place look lived in. None of it was mine. 8 years in this apartment, and I could pack my entire life in 4 hours. That said something, didn't it? I boxed up my belongings methodically. Clothes from the closet, mostly work gear and a few decent shirts for when we'd go out. My toolbox from under the sink. The coffee maker I'd brought from my old place. The one I'd used every morning before Emily decided we needed a fancier one that made specialty drinks. My old one still worked fine, but hers looked better on the counter. I found things I'd forgotten I owned. A framed photo of my parents from before they passed. Some old books from college. A tackle box from when I used to fish on weekends before Emily said it was a waste of time that could be better spent on family activities. Activities that apparently didn't include fishing. Everything fit in 8 boxes and 2 duffel bags. While I packed, I thought about the trip they were on. Day 3 now. They'd be in Paris, probably at the Louvre, looking at art Emily had researched for months. She'd made a whole spreadsheet of must-see pieces, the Mona Lisa, the Venus de Milo, that winged victory statue she'd shown me pictures of. I wondered if Justin was paying attention or just going through the motions. Probably taking selfies and posting them like he'd planned the whole thing, making himself look like the dad who treated his kids to Europe instead of the deadbeat who vanished for 12 years. I wondered if Mason and Grace were thinking about me at all. Probably not. They were too busy enjoying their authentic family experience with their biological father. The thought didn't hurt as much as I expected it to. Mostly, I just felt tired. Tired of trying to earn a place I'd never fully have. Tired of being grateful for scraps of acknowledgement. Tired of funding a life that didn't include me when it mattered. My phone buzzed. A text from Grace. Mom says you're being unreasonable. Can you just talk to her? I sat on the edge of the bed and typed back. I did talk to her. She made her choice. I'm making mine. You're really going to throw away our family over this? I stared at that word. Family. You threw it away when you picked your biological father over the man who's been here for 8 years. I wrote. I'm just accepting what you already decided. She didn't respond. I kept packing. The next day, I drove to a storage facility on the east side of town. Climate controlled month to month. I loaded everything in except what I needed for the next 2 weeks. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop. When I closed the storage unit door, I felt lighter. I stopped at the post office on the way back and filed a forwarding address. Not to another apartment, to a P.O. box 3 towns over in Riverside, a place I'd looked up the night before. Small town, low cost of living, manufacturing jobs available. I'd worked ceramics for 8 years. I could find something similar anywhere. Back at the apartment, I sat at the kitchen table one last time. The same table where I'd planned a trip I'd never take. Where I'd signed up for overtime to cover expenses that were never really ours. I opened my laptop and checked my bank account. My savings had barely been touched. The joint checking was nearly empty, but that didn't matter anymore. I transferred what was left into my personal account and closed the joint one entirely. My phone rang. Emily's name on the screen. I answered. The bank called me, she said. No. Hello. No greeting. You closed our account. I closed my account. I corrected. You're welcome to open your own. This is insane. We're married. We were. I said past tense. You'll get the papers when you're back. Papers. Divorce papers. David Brooks is handling it. Silence. Then her voice came back different now. Shaky. You're serious completely. Where are you going to go? That's not your concern anymore. You can't just leave. I can, I said. And I am. The apartment's already rented to someone else. You've got 2 weeks to figure out where you're staying when you get back. You're putting me and the kids on the street. I'm releasing you to your actual family. I said Justin can help. That's what fathers do. I hung up before she could respond. The apartment was quiet again. I looked around one last time at the kitchen where I'd made breakfast for people who saw me as a checkbook. At the living room where I'd sat watching shows I didn't care about because it made them happy. At the bedroom where I'd convinced myself that being used was the same thing as being loved. Tomorrow I'd turn in my keys. Tonight I'd sleep better than I had in years. 2 weeks passed in silence. I'd already moved to Riverside by the time their plane landed. Small furnished room above a hardware store. Cheap rent. Walking distance to Bishop Manufacturing where I'd lined up a job starting Monday. Same work, different building, better pay. I didn't tell Emily where I was. I didn't tell anyone. The first sign things were falling apart came through Mason's social media. He posted a photo at the airport with the caption, "Home sweet home." I think 3 confused face emojis. I didn't like it. Didn't comment. Just watched. An hour later, Grace posted from the parking lot. Why is there a moving truck at our building? I closed the app and made dinner. Eggs and toast. Cheap, simple mine. My phone stayed quiet until 8:30 that night. Then it exploded. 17 missed calls, 12 text messages, 3 voicemails. I let them pile up while I watched the news on the small TV that came with the room. Local stuff, road work, school board meetings, things that had nothing to do with me. Finally, I checked the messages. The first one was from Emily. Call me now. The second, where are you? The apartment is gone. The third, this isn't funny. Call me back. Mason's message was simpler. What the hell, man? Grace sent a paragraph. I didn't read past the first line. I can't believe you did this to us. The voicemails were all the same. Panic, anger, confusion. Emily's voice getting higher with each one. I deleted them without listening all the way through. At 9:15, she tried calling from a different number. Probably borrowed someone's phone, thinking I'd blocked hers. I answered this time. Where are you? She demanded. Somewhere else, I said. The apartment's gone. There are strangers living in it. Our things are everywhere. Your things, I corrected. Mine are already moved. You can't do this. I did do this. Where are we supposed to stay? I took a breath. That's not my problem anymore. You wanted Justin involved. He's the father. Let him figure it out. He left, she said quietly. I stopped. What? He left. Got back to his hotel 2 days ago and said he had work. Just disappeared. I almost laughed. Almost. So, the guy who abandoned his kids once did it again. Shocking. Don't be a jerk. I'm being accurate. I said, you picked him. You wanted the real deal. Well, you got him. We're at Patricia's right now. She said her sister. We can't stay here long. She doesn't have room. Call Justin. Tell him you need help. His phone goes straight to voicemail. Then I guess you'll need to figure something else out. You're really going to do this? Leave us with nothing. You have exactly what you had before me. I said, Justin, your choices and each other. I'm just not funding it anymore. She started crying then. Not the real kind. The frustrated kind she used when she wasn't getting her way. Please, she said, just talk to me. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix. You told me I wasn't part of your actual family. I agreed. That's the end of it. I didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. I hung up. 5 minutes later, Mason texted. Mom's freaking out. She says, you took everything. I replied, I took what was mine. Everything else is still there. The apartment's gone. The apartment was in my name. I'm not paying rent for people who don't want me around. Where are we supposed to live? That's between you, your mom, and your father. The biological one. He didn't text back. Grace tried an hour later. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it. Around midnight, my phone finally went quiet. I sat in the small room with the window open, listening to the sound of the town settling in for the night. Distant traffic, a dog barking somewhere, the hum of the streetlight outside. I thought about them crammed into Patricia's apartment, probably arguing about whose fault it was, probably trying to reach Justin, getting nothing but voicemail. I thought about the trip they'd just taken, the photos they'd posted, museums and cafes and old buildings I'd helped pay for. I thought about the text that started all of this. The kids want their biological father. They got him. And now they understood exactly what that meant. I turned off my phone, plugged it into charge, and went to bed. Tomorrow I'd start my new job. New town, new routine, new life. No looking back, no exceptions, no regrets. 3 weeks into my new job at Bishop Manufacturing, I got an email from David Brooks. Subject line, legal notice received. Emily filed a motion to contest the apartment situation and demanding I cover temporary housing costs. David attached the documents and a note. She has no legal standing. "I'll handle it." I replied with one word: "Thanks." The motion got dismissed 2 days later. The judge's ruling was straightforward. The apartment was solely in my name. The lease termination was proper. I had no obligation to house adult stepchildren or an estranged spouse. David forwarded me the decision with another note. "She can try again, but she won't win. Keep documenting everything." I saved the email in a folder labeled legal and went back to work. My new routine was simple. Clock in at 6 o'clock, out at 2:30, stop at the diner down the street for coffee, walk back to my room, read, watch TV, sleep, repeat. Nobody here knew my history. Nobody asked why I moved to Riverside or where I'd come from. I was just another guy who showed up, did the work, and kept to himself. It felt good. A month after they'd returned, Mason sent a message through social media. I almost didn't open it. "I get why you're mad," it started. "But this is affecting all of us. Mom had to get a job at a call center. Grace's couch surfing. We had to sell stuff just to cover rent on a cheaper place. Justin won't answer anyone. Can't you just help a little?" I read it twice, then closed the app without responding. 2 days later, Grace tried a different approach. She sent a friend request on a platform I barely used. I declined it. Then she found my email somehow. "I never wanted this to happen," she wrote. "I thought having my dad there would be nice. I didn't think you'd actually leave. Can we talk, please?" I stared at the message for a long time. Finally, I typed back. "You're 22. Mason's 24. You're both adults. Your mom made a choice. You supported it. Now you're dealing with the outcome. That's not my responsibility anymore." I hit send before I could second-guess it. She replied within minutes. "So that's it. 8 years and you just walk away. You walked away first." I wrote back. "I just made it official." She didn't respond after that. Work kept me busy enough that I didn't check my phone much. The guys at Bishop were decent. Quiet crew. Everyone focused on their own tasks. I ate lunch with a few of them sometimes. Talked about sports, weather, nothing personal. One afternoon, a coworker named Greg asked if I was from around here. "No," I said, "moved here about a month ago." "Family." "Not anymore." He nodded like he understood and didn't push further. I appreciated that. 6 weeks in, Emily sent a final message. This one was longer, more desperate. She explained how hard things were, how she'd underestimated everything, how Justin had completely vanished and wouldn't return calls or messages, how Mason was working 2 jobs just to help with rent, how Grace had to drop a class because she couldn't afford books. "I made a mistake," she wrote. "I thought having Justin there would make the kids happy. I didn't realize what I was giving up. Can we please just talk about this? I miss you. We all do." I saved the message to the legal folder and didn't reply. David called a week later. "She's trying mediation now," he said. "Wants to negotiate a settlement." "For what?" I asked. "Alimony. Temporary support. She's claiming financial hardship." "How long were we legally married?" 6 years. "And you paid for everything the entire time according to your records?" "Yes." "Then she's entitled to very little in this state. Maybe a small temporary amount, but given the circumstances and the duration, I'd say we can fight it down to nothing." "Do that," I said. The mediation lasted 30 minutes. David handled it over video call while I was at work. When I got back to my room that evening, he'd sent a summary. Emily asked for $2,000 a month. The mediator offered $500. David countered with 0. They settled on nothing. Case closed. His email said, "Divorce will be finalized in 60 days. I forwarded the email to my legal folder and made dinner. Rice, chicken, vegetables, simple food, my food. That night, I sat by the window and looked out at the quiet street below. A few cars passed. Street lights flickered on as the sun set. I thought about the text that had started everything, the one that had arrived at 6:47 a.m. while I was tying my work boots. I thought about the choice Emily made. The choice they all made. And I thought about the life I was building now. Small, quiet, mine, no debt, no drama, no one taking from me while pretending it was love. Somewhere across the state, they were figuring out what life looked like without someone footing the bill. Mason working 2 jobs. Grace couch surfing. Emily at a call center, probably wondering how it all fell apart so fast. Justin, wherever he was, had proven exactly who he'd always been. And me, I was exactly where I needed to be. For months after I'd left, I was sitting in the break room at Bishop Manufacturing when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Hello. Is this you?" A woman's voice, not Emily, older, tired. "Who's asking?" "It's Patricia, your wife's sister." I sat down my coffee. "What do you need?" "I need you to know what you did," she said, her voice sharp and accusing. "They're falling apart. My sister's working 60 hours a week at that call center and can barely afford groceries. The kids are struggling." Mason had to drop out of his certification program because he couldn't pay for it while helping with rent. Grace sleeping on friends' couches because they can't afford a 2-bedroom. I let her finish. "You done?" I asked. "Don't you care?" "I cared for 8 years," I said. "Paid for everything, took extra shifts, covered emergencies, signed my name on leases and loans and bills. And the second they decided they wanted their biological father instead of me, I became disposable. So no, Patricia, I don't care anymore. She made a mistake. She made a choice. There's a difference." "Justin won't even talk to them," Patricia continued. "Blocked their numbers. Won't return emails." Mason tried showing up at his work and security escorted him out. "That man is a coward." "I agree," I said. "But that's not my problem. They wanted him. They got exactly who he is. You're punishing them." "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just not saving them anymore." She was quiet for a moment. I heard her breathing on the other end, trying to compose herself. "My sister cries every night." Patricia finally said, "She knows she messed up. She's sorry. Then she can live with that." "You're cold." "I'm clear." I corrected. I spent 8 years being warm, accommodating, and generous. It got me a text message uninviting me from a vacation I paid for. So, yeah, I'm done being warm. Patricia hung up without another word. I finished my coffee and went back to work. That night, I got an email, not from Emily, from Grace. The subject line was, "I'm sorry." I opened it. "I know you probably won't read this," it started, "but I need to say it anyway. I was stupid. I got caught up in the idea of having my dad around. He'd been gone so long. And when he showed up at graduation, it felt like maybe things could be different, like maybe he'd changed. He hadn't. He left again 2 days after we got back. Told Mom he had work commitments and just vanished. His phone's disconnected now. We can't reach him. It's like he was never there again." The whole trip was weird looking back. He kept taking calls and disappearing for hours. Missed half the museums Mom wanted to see because he had business to handle. Made Mason and me split restaurant bills with him because he forgot his wallet on a trip you paid for. The trip he replaced you on. Mason and I have talked a lot about what happened. We both realize now what you did for us, the stuff you paid for, the stability you gave us. We took it for granted because it was always just there. We didn't understand that you were the reason it was there. Mom's a mess. She won't admit it, but I know she regrets everything. She thought having Justin on that trip would make us happy, that it would be this perfect family bonding experience. Instead, it showed us exactly who he is. She cries a lot now. Says she threw away the only real man she ever had. I'm not asking you to come back. I know that's not going to happen. And honestly, I don't blame you, but I wanted you to know that we understand now. We understand what we lost. What we threw away for someone who didn't even stick around long enough to get through customs on the flight home. He literally changed his return flight to leave early. Said he had an important meeting. I miss you. Mason does too, even though he won't say it. We miss having someone who actually gave a damn about us instead of just showing up when it was convenient. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back, Grace, I appreciate you writing this. I do. But understanding what you lost doesn't change the fact that you were willing to lose it in the first place. You're 22. Mason's 24. You're both old enough to have known better. Your mom definitely knew better. I gave 8 years. I didn't do it expecting gratitude, but I also didn't do it expecting to be replaced the moment someone more authentic showed up. You wanted your biological father. You chose him over the man who was actually there. And when he disappeared again, just like he did when you were kids, you learned who he actually is. That's a hard lesson, but it's one you needed to learn. Some people show up, some people stay, and some people are only there when it benefits them. Justin taught you which category he belongs in. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. I hope you figure things out. I hope Mason finishes his program eventually. I hope your mom finds stability and learns to value people who actually show up. But I won't be part of that process. Take care of yourself. I hit send and closed my laptop. 2 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. David sent me the documents via email. I signed them digitally and sent them back. No ceremony, no drama, just paperwork that made official what had already been true for months. That weekend, I drove out to a state park about an hour from Riverside, walked one of the trails, sat by a lake, watched the water move in the wind. I thought about the person I'd been 4 months ago, the guy tying his work boots at 6:47 a.m. opening a text that would change everything. I thought about the apartment I'd left behind, the bills I'd stopped paying, the family that had never really been mine. And I thought about the life I had now, small, quiet, uncomplicated, a job I didn't hate, a town where nobody knew my history, a bank account that only I had access to. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was just free. Guys, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 1,000 mark.